bills. You all ready? Legislative Day number 2 will come to order. Please rise for a moment of silent meditation. Thank you. I will now call upon Councilmember Catch, who will read us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Good evening, everyone. Is there a motion to approve the journal for the meeting of January 6, 2020?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The journal is approved. Next is the enrollment of bills. Mr. Secretary?
There are no bills for enrollment this evening, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary?
Go ahead.
You okay? Okay. Mr. Secretary, will you now read all bills for introduction?
If I may, Madam Chair, there's one item of miscellaneous business before we get to the bills. If I may, miscellaneous business number 14, which is the Council's consideration of the County Executive's nominee for appointment as the Director of the Office of Ethics and Accountability. That nominee is Ms. Kelly Beckham Madigan.
Thank you. You're going early. Please come up front. And I see you have your family with you. That's so nice. Good evening.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to, again, to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity. I'm very excited about the opportunity to lead this office. It's my vision that this office would complement already existing procedures within Baltimore County government. It would provide insight into accountability and oversight while also serving as both the executive director of the Ethics Commission and also creating an inspector general where everyone can feel confident in having an independent agency dedicated to rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse. I believe that I'm the perfect candidate for this position given my unique background as both a prosecutor and a lawyer and one that has worked closely with Inspector General's offices going forward. And I really look forward to bringing my background and working in concert with each and every agency going forward.
Thank you so much. We got to have a meeting with you last week, and it was a pleasure getting to know you and hear your background, and actually excited about this position and seeing how it moves forward in the county. Does anybody have any comments or questions for Ms. Madigan? Okay. Yes.
Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Madigan. I didn't have this question for you during the work session, which I thought you spoke very well, and I think you'll be great at the job. But I was just at a meeting with the Associated on a task force to reduce anti-Semitism, and one of the things that came up was how do you report anti-Semitic behavior? And as it made me think, and no one really had the answer from lay leaders or electeds or from the different people that were on this task force. And so I was wondering, would that be something that's part of your office? I don't know in Baltimore County where the right place to make to bring that issue forward if we were to have some situation. Councilman Jones, I think it's the
Human Relations.
Okay, good to know.
Anyone else? Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the appointment?
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the appointment.
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
The appointment is confirmed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, will you now read all bills for introduction?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Bill 3-20 is sponsored by Council Members Bevins, Crandall, Patoka, and Marks, donation bins. Bill 4-20 is sponsored by Councilman Jones and Crandall, voluntary private security or surveillance camera registration program.
Any comments?
Madam Chair.
Yes. Councilman
Yes,
Catch?
I'd like to be a co-sponsor of the bin bill, and
Yeah, me as well, Mr. Secretary.
I'd like to be a co-sponsor of the voluntary private security bill.
Yes.
And I'll go on the bin bill.
Thank you,
I think that might pass. I just had this maybe idea.
Have to look at the
It might
amendments.
pass the bin bill.
I think this is our kumbaya moment for the evening.
Yeah, it's gonna be quick though, guys. The kumbaya is gonna go bye-byes.
Okay.
Where am I? Oh, Mr. Secretary, where are we? Is that it?
Final
Is that the
reading
only
and
for
vote.
introduction?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all righty. The council will now consider all bills for final reading and vote. Mr. Secretary, first bill, please.
Bill 67-19, current expense budget, Office of Home Energy Programs.
And we have, who do we have?
Mark Millspaw.
Oh, we do. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the council. I am here regarding home energy program. Baltimore County Department of Social Services is requesting a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $159,341 to support additional staff members to serve low-income households with needed assistance in making their energy costs more affordable and to help with the prevention and loss and restoration of home energy services. These are grant funds and will allow us to move from dependence on temporary staffing to more permanent staffing.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the members? Okay. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 67-19.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Bill 67-19 is passed. Thank you, sir. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Bill 68-19, capital budget, street rehabilitation, minor bridge repair.
Thank you. And we have Mr. Steve Walsh here to testify. Good evening.
Madam Chair Bevins, members of the council, good evening. Bill 6819 is a supplemental appropriation to allow the county to receive federal FEMA disaster grant funding related to the May 2018 storm in Catonsville, which damaged some roads and bridges down there. The supplemental appropriations of federal funds total $2,124,383, and they will go into two different bulk capital project accounts, one for street rehab in the amount of $1,163,176, and another one into the minor bridge repair category in the amount of $961,207.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Councilman Quirk?
Yeah, just real briefly, I just wanted to thank our director here, Mr. Steve Walsh, and his crew. And when this big flooding happened, we literally had hundreds and hundreds of people come out to a meeting that Steve was part of, and really was a tremendous asset. And I just appreciate all your personal hands-on work on behalf of the county. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 68-19.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Bill 68-19 is passed. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Bill 69-19, Development Regulations Performance Security.
Okay, we have Amy Grassi here to testify. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. This legislation is simply to add performance bonds to the list of the types of security that developers can deposit with the county to secure their obligations to build out certain private and public infrastructure as part of their approved development plans. These bonds are attached to what are called the utility agreements and public works agreements that are normally processed. As part of a development plan, they document the types of private and public improvements in infrastructure like the roads, sewers, there are landscaping securities, and all of those obligations that I'm sure you hear about in your districts when developments are closing out. There's really not going to be any change in our process. This has been requested by the development community for a long time. Bonds are easier for them to obtain. They are a little bit more difficult for us to convert and get the cash out at the end if there's a problem. It's also my understanding, after having a lot of discussion about this over the last 6 or 7 months, that the developers are less likely to breach under a letter of credit because it's more directly tied to their relationships with the banks that secure the funds. So it's kind of a six and one, half dozen of the other type situation at the end of the day for us. But the developers really wanted us to do it, and hopefully it will help us secure good development in the county.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Quirk?
Just real quickly, Ms. Grassi, so if there's a delay or a time lag, so to speak, because of maybe a selling of a bond, what type of time are we talking about?
So the issue is that normally we've been taking letters of credit, and when there's a breach under a letter of credit, we can just convert it without any process. Under the bonds, you actually have to submit a claim to the entity that's securing it, and they do an investigation, and people really have to present evidence on one side or the other, and there's kind of a mediation sort of resolution to that. At the end of the day, though, like I said, it's not really going to affect our process, I don't think, that much, mostly because developers don't like to put their banks through that process, because then those banks are less likely to secure for them and lend to them in the future. So, it's a big inconvenience on that end, as well as a slight inconvenience on our end. It's not going to be to the benefit of developers to let these things go.
Any other comments or questions from the members? Thank you, Ms. Grassi. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 69-19.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Bill 69-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Bill 70-19, Current Expense Budget Port Security Grant.
And I believe we have Colonel Foldenauer here to testify. Good evening, Colonel.
All right, this one's in reference to a grant in the amount of $45,546. It's been awarded to the police department by FEMA. Requires matching funds in the amount of $15,182, equaling a total supplemental appropriation of $60,728. We're requesting to use these funds, Baltimore County funds, to meet the required match. With approval, it would be a total appropriation of $60,728 in fiscal year 2020 for this port security grant. And the goal of this is to replace one of our emergency response vessels that has radiation detection equipment. That was from 2010.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Secretary, I believe there's an amendment to Bill 70-19.
There is an amendment, Madam Chair. It is a technical amendment. It would insert in the first whereas clause after management, it would insert agency, and then it would also, after federal, insert and county to show that these are federal and county funds made available through the local share program.
I'll move the amendment.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, can you call the roll on the amendment to Bill 70?
Madam Chair,
Oh,
if I may, I'm sorry. I just want to thank the Colonel and the Department for their work on this. The port operations are in the 7th District, so we appreciate the vigilance, and thank you for your work.
Of course.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a comment, Colonel. I think this is one of the more important actions we're going to take tonight because port security not only protects the 7th District, not only protects Baltimore County, not only protects the region, but the stronger we are at our entry points, the stronger we are as a nation. So I think this is really an important bill that I hope will pass tonight.
Very good point. Anyone else?
Well said.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to 70-19.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
The amendment passes. Are there any questions or comments for the bill?
I'll move the bill as amended.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 70-19 as amended.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Bill 70-19 as amended is passed. Thank you.
I'm still here.
Right, next is Bill 71.
Oh, that's right, thank you. Thank you for keeping me on my toes tonight.
Next is Bill 71-19, also current expense budget, BJA Body Armor Grant.
It's all yours, Colonel.
Yes, ma'am. This one's in reference to a grant in the amount of $60,074 that's been awarded to the Police Department by the Department of Justice, the Bureau of Justice Assistance. Requires matching funds in the same amount, equaling a total supplemental appropriation of $120,147. Police Department's requesting that Baltimore County funds be used to meet the required match. This request is for council's approval to accept and appropriate that total of $120,147 in fiscal year 2020 for the BGA Body Armor Grant. And as a reminder, this is to help us with our cycle of replacing the ballistic vests that our officers wear.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, there is an amendment to Bill 71-19.
Yes, ma'am. This amendment is similar to the one you just considered and voted on. It, again, clarifies that the grant, it's a technical amendment, that it clarifies the grant is federal and county funds that are made available through the local share program.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the amendment?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to Bill 71-19.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
The amendment passes. Are there any questions or comments from the members on the bill? Is there a motion to approve Bill 71-19 as
So moved.
amended?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, call the roll on Bill 71-19 as amended.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Bill 71-19 is passed. Thank you, Colonel.
I think I'll let the chief handle the next one.
Okay. Smart man. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Next is Bill 72-19, entitled Secure All Firearms Effectively, also known as the SAFE Act.
Okay, and we have Chief Melissa Hyatt here to testify. And Meg Ferguson. Good evening to you both.
Good evening. Good evening, Councilwoman Bevins and members of the County Council. To begin, I'd like to thank the Council for the opportunity to present this critical public safety initiative. The Baltimore County Police Department has brought before this body the Secure All Firearms Effectively Act, or the SAFE Act, in our efforts to make Baltimore County a safer place to live, work, and visit. During last week's work session, we showed you footage of burglaries of retail establishments that we have seen both across the country and right here in Maryland. Burglaries of firearm retail establishments present a real and pressing issue of concern. Right here in Baltimore County, 7 different firearms retail establishments were burglarized 13 times in 2018 and 2019, including 3 incidents occurring after we announced this bill in November. 51 guns were stolen during one of those incidents, and we know that that means 51 more weapons in the hands of criminals. We know that stolen weapons are often sold or traded to criminals, providing many who would otherwise be barred from owning firearms with weapons used to commit violent crimes. During my first few months as police chief, I was alarmed by the scope and frequency of these incidents within the county. Despite being frequent targets for criminals, these stores currently have no legal requirements to secure their business or their inventory after business hours, a stark contrast to other retailers like medical cannabis dispensaries and pharmacies. More can be done to stop these crimes, and we have an obligation to do so. The SAFE Act will close the gap in our laws by establishing minimum security standards needed to help prevent these stores from being successfully burglarized. We are grateful for the participation from local firearms retail establishments on this project. Together, we have discussed and recognized that safety plans for these businesses are as unique as the businesses themselves. We look forward to continued collaboration with them. The investment in properly securing firearms and safeguarding them is worth just one single life saved. The SAFE Act is one necessary way that we together can continue making Baltimore County and our region safer for us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Hyatt. I believe we have several amendments to go through before we get to the bill.
We do, Madam Chair.
Okay.
If I may, I'll go through them one at a time.
Yes, thank you.
The first amendment to the bill is sponsored by Council members Marks, Quirk, Bevins, and Catch. And this first amendment would remove the language in the bill that authorizes a fee for a license, and it would also strike other places in the bill that also make reference to a fee being paid as part of the application, and again, just other references where there is a fee mentioned. So this amendment would take out the requirement that a fee be paid either for the application or the license.
Is there a motion to approve the amendment to Bill 7219?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the first amendment to Bill 72-19.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
No.
Mr. Secretary, next amendment.
The next amendment, Madam Chair, this amendment clarifies the definition of a gun show. Currently, the bill defines a gun show as any organized gathering open to the public at which any firearm is displayed. This amendment clarifies that language by adding the following language, that for the purposes of this title, an organized gathering is a gun show only if a firearm may be sold, rented, or transferred at wholesale or retail at the gun show. And this is an amendment sponsored by Councilman Catch.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to 7219. Oh, did I miss something?
Is there a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So moved.
Who fell asleep? Got a second?
I'll wait for
Were you the
discussion.
second?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just had a question.
Oh, sure.
I wanted
For
to
the amendment? Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to understand the thinking of the amendment.
I'm not exactly sure the thinking per se, Mr. Patoka, but again, the current definition of a gun show is any organized gathering open to the public at which any firearm is displayed. So what this amendment proposes to do is to clarify that any organized gathering is a gun show only if a firearm is to be sold, rented, or transferred at wholesale or retail at the gun show. And I think the thinking is that the definition of a dealer is a person who is engaged in the business of selling, renting, or transferring firearms at wholesale or retail in space open or advertised to the public. So I think the thinking is to have the definition of a gun show be consistent with the definition of a dealer.
So if it's if you display guns, but you're not selling them, then it's not applicable? Is that?
It's not a gun show.
It's not a gun show.
It's not a gun show, and I think that would potentially be we would be preempted from having any laws related to that, because the state law does not preempt us from regulating the sale, transfer, rental of firearms or ammunition within 100 yards of the places of assembly, church, park.
So is this housekeeping, or is it substantive?
It's housekeeping.
I think it's just clarifies.
It's
Okay,
clarification.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted, that's the point I was getting at.
Okay. So did we have a motion?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the Second Amendment to 7219.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
No.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Don't talk to me, Julian. Mr. Secretary, the amendment to 7219 passes.
The next amendment is sponsored by council members Quirk, Jones, Bevins, Marks, and Catch. And this amendment, on page 6 of the bill, it says on line 9 that the director may approve an application unless the information provided by the applicant is incorrect or incomplete, or that the premises listed in the application does not meet other county health, zoning, fire, or building code requirements. This amendment would change the word may to shall. So the director shall approve an application unless the application does not comply with those listed things.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve that amendment?
I'll move it.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to 7219.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
No. You had to ask?
Mr. Secretary, is there a third amendment?
There's a few more. Next is an amendment sponsored by Councilman Catch. This amendment refers to page 7 of the bill, the bottom of 6 and page 7, which is the requirements or the security requirements that are or the security elements that are required of a gun dealer to comply with in order to get the license and to have their plan approved. And this is really not a substantive amendment. It's really a technical amendment in that it essentially rewrites that section in a more understandable way. It presents the requirements in a more workable order and a better understandable order. Oh, I'm sorry, and it does have one substantive provision in that it indicates that the chief of police shall approve or deny a plan for compliance within 30 days of receipt of the plan. That is an addition.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve this amendment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
No,
Yes.
Question.
Yeah, ask a question.
So the substantive part you said is 30 days from receipt,
Yes.
and what was there any time frame?
There was not a time frame in the bill.
Can I ask the chief if that is a time frame which is manageable for the police department?
You know, we would prefer to have we would prefer to have a more extended time frame, because if we got into a situation where we had multiple requests at the same time, it might be difficult for us to do that.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Catch.
Yes. What time period then would you suggest?
Mr. Councilman, when in one of the chief's meetings with the store owners, there was a request that we actually set an annual schedule that would have their licenses issued in a certain month that would give them plenty of time to have them in hand so they could then proceed with their state and federal license applications and be, minimally inconvenienced. So that's what the department is anticipating doing, is being on an annual cycle, so that there would be clarity and convenience for the dealers.
Certainly the first year, that would not work as well. Because, I mean,
right, they would be getting, they
Right.
would need, right, they would need to get the initial license. And then the
you
renewal would
could be backed up because there are, 18 gun shops in Baltimore County that this bill would apply to.
Well,
So
and
you could get backed up, which is the reason the chief said that the 30 days was not adequate. So that the gun shop owners will have some certainty in regard to when they'll get a decision the first year. How many days do you think would be reasonable? Let's just say limit this to the first year of the bill, that the police chief must give a response within 60 days, 45 days, or what do you think would
I think the chief would anticipate that 60 days would be fine. I do think that is not a limitation that's normally put on government agencies, because what you end up with is, well, we can't actually act on, your application isn't complete, so the time doesn't start running, and then you can end up in a dispute with the applicant over whether they've really applied or not, if you see what I mean. And it just sets up, it could set up a less smooth, less collaborative process.
My concern is that you could end up in a situation where the gun shop, within the period of the 6 months, won't get this resolved and will no longer be able to stay open. I just would be more comfortable
If the application is
with
complete, 60 days should be fine.
So I think, to Ms. Ferguson's point, the biggest conflict for us is the incompleteness of an application. So if we could say from the complete, a complete application, 60 days, that would be very reasonable for us to comply with on our end.
You mean put an amendment on the amendment? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, Mr. Secretary, I'd like to amend the amendment accordingly.
Well, there's also the issue, I mean, we could go around and around. There's the issue of what constitutes a complete application, or in this case, a complete security plan. This is what the chief is being asked to approve or deny. And so perhaps in the regulations that they are going to promulgate, they can, in addition to talking about antique firearms and things of that nature, they could also discuss what is a complete application or not. Because I would think if an application is not complete, then that is grounds for denial. But again, I'm not implementing this.
Madam Chair,
I'm sorry.
I was just thinking, if an application is incomplete, you can deny it.
Yes.
That doesn't mean they can't reapply with a complete application.
Is that correct? Is that correct,
It's not
Chief?
like once you're denied forever.
Correct. Yeah, that would be correct.
So what you're saying is that, okay, it's incomplete, so therefore we reject your application.
So you,
And why? Because it's incomplete.
and the person completes it,
Yeah,
and
makes
then
sense.
you have 30 days.
Yeah.
So are we amending the amendment? Or no? Or we don't? You taking your motion back?
Could I make a comment, Madam Chair?
Of course.
So when I meet with business owners, the thing that they tell me that they want from government is predictability.
Right.
And so if the chief, who I think is the primary expert in this matter, feels that 60 days can offer some level of predictability for the shop owners, I think it's a reasonable ask that we amend this bill so that we can offer predictability for business owners.
Okay.
Is that, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. is
That's
that-
what, that's what I'm trying to achieve, so that the business owners are going to know what's in front of them, so they don't end up in a situation where they're not any longer going to be able to stay open. And this gives some certainty to it.
Councilman Quirk, did you have a comment?
I would just ask the Secretary if you could maybe reread maybe the new amendment, as we have an amendment on the floor that's had a friendly amendment that's been, accepted. So I'm just making sure I understand what the amendment is.
Certainly. Currently, the bill states that the chief of, on page 8, the top of page 8, line number 4, the chief of police shall review and approve all plans for compliance with this section. And what the amendment would do, I believe, is it would say the chief, essentially the same thing, except that it would say the chief of police shall approve or deny a plan for compliance within 30 days of receipt of the plan. So that's where we are at the moment.
And I have an amendment to make it 60.
So you are amending the amendment to
Correct.
60 days rather than 30 days?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a motion? Are you moving that amendment, Mr. Catch?
I'll move it.
Second.
Mr. Secretary,
Madam
please.
Chair, if I may,
Yes,
has the
Ms.
administration
Perkins.
Yeah, I'd like
seen
to explain
the
that.
rest of the amendment? It was described as a rewrite, and I don't know that
Right.
we've seen it.
Well, the,
I'd like to.
the,
I would.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Council's indulgence.
I know.
so
Take
the
your time.
other part of the amendment states that the chief shall approve if it qualifies, basically, if it's
That
met
was a
the
previous
requirement.
amendment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah,
that was a previous
I'm
amendment
sorry.
that you all voted on.
Oh, we're still talking about the same amendment.
Yes. Councilman Marks?
I disagree with changing it from the 30 days. If this entire bill was such a priority for the administration and the police department, I think we can get it done in 30 days.
Well, there's a motion and a second for amending the amendment to 60 days.
Okay. So, Mr. Secretary, call the roll on this amended amendment. Well, no,
Roll call on the
I'd
60
just,
days.
Can I have a question, Madam Chair?
yes.
Initially, while we are working these things out, no one's closed, right? No one's going to close.
Well,
Whether it takes 30 days or 60 days, they're going to continue to operate until such a time that they're in compliance or quote-unquote out of compliance. But that only happens after an application is made and it is adjudicated, inspected, da-da-da-da-da. Right?
Is that correct, Chief?
So, yes, they will continue to operate in the same fashion that they have. If this were to get passed, then the timeline at which point they had to be in compliance, then obviously if they were not in compliance, it would be an issue. But this is not going to impact anyone's current operation.
Mr., Madam,
Yes.
yeah.
Councilman Catch.
I almost called you Madam Speaker, but that's all
Oh, that's,
right. Chief, wouldn't it be true, though, with the 6-month requirement in the bill, that if a gun shop did not get approval by the end of that 6-month period, then the gun shop would have to close?
That is correct.
Okay, so they would.
That's not the application though, right?
Say
No.
that again?
It's not, has nothing to do with the application.
Well, the amendment talks about the chief has 60 days to give an answer to whether or not the application meets the standards in the bill. In other words, to give approval or not. And obviously, if it's no, it's not complete or whatever, then the gun shop owner has to put in or add to the plan. Well, what I'm saying is that if in the bill it says you have 6 months before this licensure goes into effect. So if you don't have a license in 6 months as a gun shop, you're closed. You can't operate because you don't have a permit to operate any longer. And so the purpose of this amendment is try to give some certainty to the gun stores that their application is going to be considered and acted upon in a reasonable amount of time so that they will stay open.
Okay.
Mr. Secretary, does this amendment change the physical security requirements?
It does not. What it does is it expands what constitutes physical security elements, including concrete barriers, steel barricades, planters, landscape boulders, or another physical barrier that prevents intrusion into the building.
Thank you.
Can I ask, Mr. Secretary, what are the expanded components of that?
What are the...
You said you said it expands it to include...
Right. Right
what
now, the bill says bollards or another physical barrier. So the rewrite includes just some other specific types of physical exterior security, such as concrete barriers, steel barricades, planters, landscape boulders.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms.
that piece of the amendment, I believe, is acceptable to the administration and to the chief. It is the sort of thing that is a level of detail we would normally put in the regulations. The bill, as introduced, already says, or another physical barrier to prevent vehicle intrusion. The department would still be evaluating whether the particular planter, would actually achieve that goal. So that list is not a problem.
Councilman Quirk?
Yeah, so just trying to understand where we're at on this amendment, because I know we have a motion and we have a second, but we have an amendment that's been amended on the floor, and then we have some possible, maybe non-consensus with the executive branch and the legislative branch. So I'm just trying to understand where we're at.
I could explain very easily, if you don't mind indulging me, what exactly the rewrite consists of. So the amendment would state that several things. The chief of police shall review all monitoring and physical security plans for compliance with this section. This section being the section dealing with gun dealers and their security measures. The chief of police shall approve or deny a plan for compliance within 60 days of receipt of the plan. A dealer may not have firearm inventory on the business premises until after the chief of police has confirmed implementation of the approved plan. These are all things, except for that time period, that are in the current version, but they're sort of in different spots of that section. So we began that section with sort of these three pronouncements that, one, the chief reviews all the plans, two, he or she shall approve or deny the plan within 60 days, and three, the dealer can't have firearm inventory until the chief has confirmed implementation of that approved plan. Then we go to the monitoring that is required of a business premises. First, the business premises of a dealer shall be monitored at all times by a video system and an alarm system registered in accordance with the county code. That is also language that is in the current bill, but it's in, I think, a more manageable fashion. Next, And so those are the two monitoring components. Next, the business premises of a dealer shall be secured by the following exterior physical security elements. That is the bollards, which is in the original bill, as well as some of these other exterior features such as concrete barriers, steel barricades, planters, landscape boulders, or another physical barrier as is in the original bill. Another example of exterior physical security is security gates, screens, shutters, bars, or grills over windows and doors, or a secure vestibule for the doors. And again, that is language that was in the bill, but I think it's just written, frankly, in a better fashion and more understandable to the layperson. And then as an alternative, as a catch-all to these physical exterior requirements, the chief of police may approve another combination of exterior physical security elements that provide an adequate level of protection. So it's sort of, if you can't do these things all exactly like this, if you come to me with a better combination or a combination that provides security that we need, that's okay too. And then, which was also in the bill. Then we have the last component, which is, so you've got the monitoring and you've got the exterior physical security elements. The last part of this is when the business premises is closed. It requires the rewrite that all firearms in inventory within the business premises shall be secured in a safe, in a secured room or cage, which was in the original bill, in a smash-proof display case or display case with alarming trigger guard cabling, that is new, or behind security shutters, that was in the original. So that has to be done when the business is closed and no one's there and somebody could come in and steal all the guns. They either have to be secured in a safe, in a room or a cage that is secure, in smash-proof display cases or cases with a trigger guard cabling for an alarm, or if you have shutters that just shut down the whole front of the store and hide your inventory. And also, as an alternative to these interior physical security elements, again, the chief may authorize the dealer to provide an alternative, which is a live security guard covering the premises. So if you can't or don't have the ability to have these interior things done when the premises is closed, you can, if the chief says it's okay, you can have a live security guard on the premises. And that's basically it. Again, it's mostly the same thing. It's just what Mr. Phillipson, I believe, is in a more workable way.
Councilman Quirk?
And ultimately, you know, if the chief has an issue, the chief can also deny the plan if there's an issue, so, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilor Marks?
Just echoing my comments about the 30 days, and the clock starts ticking on these retailers once the bill is signed.
Then, Madam Chair, I know Ms.
Madam
Ferguson.
Chair, could I
I'm
just
sorry,
address,
Ms. Ferguson, sure.
the administration wasn't given the opportunity to review this ahead of time, that on line 12, it's page 10 of the version that we just got. A couple paragraphs down from the bollards. Mr. Bostwick, where it's subsection I is bollards, and then II is security gates, and then it says 2 as an alternative to the exterior physical security elements required in subsection DI.
Well, it's D1.
Oh, D1. Okay, I'm sorry. Never mind.
Okay.
I couldn't read it. The only other big comment from the department and the administration is that the smash-proof display cases is acceptable to the department, but display cases that just have the alarming trigger guard cabling, I have been visiting the gun shops with the sergeant from the unit, and we've reviewed all the industry recommendations. Those cablings are considered shoplifting deterrents, not burglary deterrents. It can actually make burglary easier because they're all strung together, easy to remove at once. So I think the key for the department to make this effective would be the smash-proof cases. The cases that can be smashed, like the ones that were in the video that was shown at work session, really undercuts the whole thing.
Chief, you agree with that, professional?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay.
Madam
Yes.
Chair, if you could pull that out of the amendment.
Okay.
Very well.
Okay, Councilman Catch.
And I do want to make a clarifying statement. All of the gun shops, and we're going to address this 6-month period, 180 days, a little later on, but it's not that when the bill's signed, that if you don't have a permit, you close. There is, in the bill, there's 180 days that the stores have to apply for a permit. So, so for that period of time, the gun stores continue to operate as they do today.
So I've changed the amendment that is offered by Mr. Catch from 30 days to 60 days for approval or denial, and I've also taken out the reference under the when the business premises is closed, the interior security elements I've taken out, or display cases with alarming trigger guard cabling.
I disagree on this going to 60 days. I don't know how you do this, call division, call vote, whatever.
But on the 60 days, Councilman Marks, so I don't want the chief to have to redeploy her resources from field operations to reviewing permits. I just think that's not a great use of resources. I think that the best use of our police force is to be in the field, not reviewing permits. And if 30 days, if we are limited to just 30 days to review these permits, it may cause the chief, and correct me if I'm wrong, to redeploy resources to meet a demand that she stated that she doesn't believe that she could meet.
Well, I guess I would just respectfully disagree. I have utmost respect for the police department, but they're the ones asking for the bill. They must obviously believe that they have the resources to process this.
I really want to stay with 60. I think that, I don't want a police officer to not be on post because they're reviewing permits.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilman Catch.
I'm going to say something that I guess people will be a little shocked, but I mean, I actually agree with Councilman Marks. But the reason that I agreed to 60 days is because the administration felt that that's the time they needed to complete the task. So I don't want to impose anything on the administration that they can't accomplish. Yet I agree with Councilman Marks that I think you could, but I just want to make that point.
And to that point, sir, I mean, our goal would be to complete these as expeditiously as possible, but to the point that was brought up earlier, when we set a deadline, we want to make sure that we're capable of meeting it for predictability for these businesses.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, I think we're done with this amendment. We have a motion.
Is there a motion now that with the two changes to the amendment?
Will Councilman Marks Unis to separate?
I'd like to separate.
Well, move to separate.
I'll move to separate
But the separation is just on the days.
on the dates, 30 versus 60.
Correct.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the amendment to the amendment to keep it at 30 days rather than 60 days?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Hearing no second, the motion, I believe, would fail.
It failed.
Is there a motion to approve the amendment for 60 days and to remove the reference to display cases with alarming trigger guard cabling, as well as the other parts of the amendment that I read?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
No.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Me too. The amendment passes. Mr. Secretary,
The
next amendment?
The next amendment is sponsored by council members Catch and Jones. This amendment has to do with gun shows, and it merely indicates, it clarifies let me just make reference to that exactly. In section 109 of the bill, which is page 8, beginning at line 11, it would indicate that rather than a gun show shall have a security plan approved by the chief of police, it says that a person promoting or sponsoring a gun show shall have a security plan approved by the chief of police. It also states that each dealer, and it also says for the gun show premises, and then it states that each dealer participating in the gun show shall comply with the security plan. It also, it's not a rewrite as before, but it just it references the same things that are currently in the bill, but again, just it's more a little bit of different style. But substantively, it also has that the plan is approved or denied within 30 days. I'm assuming perhaps there may be a motion to change that to 60 days, but I'll leave that to the members.
Is there a motion to approve this? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Councilman Catch, I'm sorry.
The chief, 30 days enough for you to approve the safety plan?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
And gun shows can't come up with a safety plan. It has to be the sponsors of the gun show, and that's what this amendment's all about.
Absolutely, the applicant who is hosting the
Right,
event.
right.
Correct.
And that's what this amendment does.
Yes.
Anyone else? Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
No.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Secretary, I believe there's another amendment?
There is, Madam Chair. This amendment goes to toward the end of the bill on page 11. The bill makes reference in line number 4 and 5 that if the chief of police determines that a violation of this title has occurred that may bring the security of firearms into question, the chief may post one or more officers or security guards at the location at the expense of the owner of the premises. This amendment, if approved or moved, seconded and approved, would remove the language at the expense of the owner of the premises until either. And it would also, if that is done, it would also remove the language that says the violation has been abated to the satisfaction of the chief of police, or the inventory has been removed to a secure location and the chief has verified the move, and that the owner may appeal the amount of an invoice provided under this subsection to the county administrative officer, and that any unpaid fees shall be considered a lien on the property in accordance with 3-6-401 of the code. So by removing that that it is at the location at the expense of the owner, I'm sorry, I think it would actually be, I think 1I and 2I would stay in the bill. Help me on that one. I think I misspoke. So it would take out the charge to the owner of the premises for the expense of the chief ordering officers or a security guard at the premises. It would still keep the language that those officers or guards would be there until the violation has been abated or the inventory has been removed, but it would then remove the language that the owner may appeal the amount of the invoice, because that language is unnecessary if it is no longer at the expense of the owner. And the third part, any unpaid fees being considered a lien, would also be struck, because that also would be unnecessary if the at the expense of the owner of the premises is removed.
Question?
Yes, Councilman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if a business is not in compliance, then is there an opportunity cost where an officer is pulled off post to be redeployed to the business that's not in compliance? Is that what this bill is suggesting, or this amendment is suggesting?
I'm not sure, I'm sorry.
So it says that if a business is not in compliance, then a police officer will be deployed to that business.
Right, if the police chief determines that a violation has occurred, that
So-
may bring security of the firearms into question, that the chief may post one or more officers or security at the location.
So, but they have to come from somewhere. And so my concern is that that officer is on post somewhere in the district, but now they're pulled off of post to protect a business that's in non-compliance.
And this is an amendment that is sponsored by Councilman Marks.
And then there's, to me, again, and with all due respect, Councilman Marks, I'm uncomfortable, and certainly I'm not the department for law enforcement, but I do feel uncomfortable with a police officer being pulled off post at no cost to protect a business that's in non-compliance.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Catch?
yes. With any, okay, it's the job of the county, of the police, to public safety. I mean, that's our primary goal, and this is our purpose as a government. So if there's any problem anywhere, whether it be a jewelry store or whatever, we will send police there. And we don't charge for that. Correct?
So,
So I just think that in regard to this amendment, the provisions of the bill, we're charging people for something that the police department should do because we're providing for public safety. And, I don't know if Councilman Marks has any comments, but that's...
I just think it's another additional cost to a retailer. I'm happy to withdraw the amendment if that's the consensus of the body.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Jones?
No, listen. I think this is a good idea that we are putting some regulations on the gun stores and the gun shows, but I don't want to go crazy here. We employ, in my opinion, the police department to protect the citizens of Baltimore County. So if somebody doesn't have a security guard protected a gun store, and we've been, 2020, and we've come up this far without them, I hate to think that we would take resources in terms of police officers and have them stand there guard the gun store. I'd rather they be doing something else. So I don't see this as a big deal. If somebody's not in compliance, then you take their license and that's the end of that. But I don't think we should be splitting hairs over whether or not the police department should post someone there to guard a gun store or a gun show and then worry about sending the person the bill. I guess you know what I mean, it's
Isn't that
a
what
bit
this is
much.
suggesting, that we have a police officer at the gun store if they're in non-compliance?
I thought the amendment was to, that part is up to the police chief.
Yeah.
If the police chief wants to do that.
Sorry. The bill as written says that the chief of police, if she or he or whoever that person may be, determines that the business is not in compliance, and it also has language that
Can't they close it?
that brings the security of firearms into question, that the chief may post one or more officers or have security guards.
If I can just interject for a moment, really the rationale behind this is in a situation where there's some major violation that is really exposing someone's inventory to burglary, and it's to the point that we feel compelled for public safety, if let's say, a window's been broken or a grate's been ripped off, to keep the inventory safe, that we have to post an officer there or post officers there. The difficult thing with us shouldering that expense is that that's likely going to be a 24/7 detail until that gets fixed. And that is going to have an impact. It's either going to take officers off the street, or else we're going to incur an overtime expense to make sure that we're able to maintain that. So it obviously rapidly depletes resources and does cost money.
Councilman Quirk.
Mr. Secretary, can you tell me a little more about this lien provision?
The
lien provision?
Yes, the bill states that, with all that said, that the chief may post one or more officers or guards at the location at the expense of the owner of the premises. And remember, the owner of the premises, until either of two things has occurred, either that the violation has been abated to the satisfaction of the chief, or that the inventory has been removed to a secure location and that the chief has verified the move. As a secondary issue, it does say that the owner may appeal the amount of any invoice provided under the subsection to the county administrative officer. So those things are in place, that limited due process. It also states that any unpaid fees shall be considered a lien on the property in accordance with 3-6-401 of the code.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman Catch.
Yeah, who's the owner? The owner of the building or the owner of the business?
The owner of the premises.
That means the building.
Yes.
So if you have a gun shop that has become unsafe and it's in rented space, then the owner of the building is going to could possibly be hit with a lien, and possibly be charged with the cost of these officers. I doubt that was the intent of the administration. I'm sure that you meant the owner of the gun business. But that's not what it says.
Yes, Councilman, I believe that's actually a drafting error on our part, where it says owner of the premises on line 5, dealer would be appropriate.
So I guess that...
So that would be applicant or licensee, perhaps?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Dealer is the...
So we really have two things going on here. We have an amendment which takes out the cost of the police, and then we have another issue that if we're going to charge for the police, that we've got to change the bill so that it's the person who has the permit, the license to run the store, correct?
Correct.
So did we have a motion to approve this amendment?
I still have just another question.
Councilman Quirk.
You're still discussing this, Mr. Catch. No motion or second has been offered yet.
Okay, good.
So
I'm willing to make the motion that the only part we subtract is any unpaid fees shall be considered a lien on the property in accordance with section 3-6-401 of the code.
But can I ask a question about that before we move it? Just to make sure that I understand, and also talking with the administration, is I think the retailers themselves are concerned with, this lien provision.
Yes.
Will they really be arguing now with their landlords? And, I mean, it's, the business owner has to pay, but if the landlord, it's a little different. And so who's authoring this amendment?
I will make the motion.
Would you take that part out?
Yes, but I want to deal with the section 3, any unpaid fees shall be considered a lien. That's the part I want to take out. Would the
Of-
administration
of
would
the
be
bill.
amenable to that.
Of the bill.
Of the bill,
Yeah.
if the administration would
That's
be
from the
amenable to
administration.
that.
Yes, yes.
Can I ask, Madam
Yes,
Chair?
Councilman Jones?
I guess I have a question for the chief. Can you explain again, what scenario would this be where we're going to post police officers to guard a gun store?
You know, a very easy example would be if we had a situation where there was a burglary and there was some kind of a burglary attempt, a breach to a window, or something that left a business exposed and their inventory exposed. And to resolve it, to remedy it, we had to post police officers, which obviously we couldn't do indefinitely at our own cost. We would either have to, as the bill articulates, either have them remove their inventory and take it to a safe place, or come up with an alternative so that way we didn't have to keep police there at our own expense.
So most likely we'll notify the owner. The owner will make arrangements, most likely, remove their inventory or secure the property.
I would certainly hope that an owner, a responsible owner, if this was brought to their attention, which of course we would do immediately, would begin to make concessions to either take over the security or to move the inventory. But in the event that they didn't, and we had to continue to post our police officers, it would provide us some coverage in terms of cost and expense.
Okay, so my motion is going to be simply to remove that section 3 dealing with any unpaid fees shall be considered a lien on the property, and I believe the administration is supportive of that.
That's correct, sir.
Councilman
my
Marks,
motion, yes.
you're separating the
Right.
business owner from the property owner.
Correct.
Okay, fair enough.
So Mr. Marks's motion on this amendment is to strike on page 11, lines 13 and 14 of the bill that state, number 3, any unpaid fees shall be considered a lien on the property in accordance with section 3-6-401 of the code.
That's correct.
And there is also an issue or an amendment that perhaps we can combine, that the administration has pointed out, a drafting error, that on page 11, line 5, instead of the owner of the premises, that would state the applicant or licensee.
I'm fine with combining the two into my motion, or my amendment.
But we're not removing that there's a cost associated with posting of a police officer.
That's correct.
That's staying, right?
The only other issue, if there is one, is whether you wish to keep the second provision of that subsection that states that the owner may appeal the amount of an invoice provided under this subsection to the county administrative officer.
Madam Chair, I
Councilman
think that
Jones?
stays.
I'm sorry?
I think that stays.
Okay, then that would also be, that would not be part of the amendment then.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Catch?
Yes, I would, how much warning will you give these retailers that you are going to deploy officers and charge them because they, whatever situation? Is there, is there any pre-warning so that they can take action to remove their stock or whatever?
So if there's a circumstance like I described before, let's say that there is a breached window or a breached door, something like that, certainly we'll stand by while they make arrangements that they need to make. But unfortunately, when these things tend to evolve, we rarely have a considerable amount of notice. So when the incident is brought to our attention, we will immediately make notification to them. And if in a reasonable period of time, they can make whatever concessions they need to make, either getting their own security or removing the inventory, that's something that we'll be able to resolve. But if, for example, they're non-responsive, or if we find out that they're unable to supply their own security and they're unable to remove the inventory for, let's say, a day or two, then that would become a hardship on us in terms of redeploying resources that are needed elsewhere to place them at a private business.
So if the door is broken in and it's got to be fixed, obviously, you will deploy officers there, and you will, from the minute they arrive, charge?
No, absolutely not. And, the same thing we would do, let's say, at a jewelry store or somewhere else. We would certainly give the owner or the operator time to get on scene, assess what they have, and then, make concessions to get somebody to come out and fix the door, secure the property. But in the event that it is a situation where the owner or the operator is not responding or is not taking sufficient actions, and we feel for the safety of that inventory to secure it, we feel compelled to post police officers there, then we'll figure out an appropriate point that they would then absorb that cost.
Will you consider in the regulations that you're going to issue some clarification that, that the owner of the retail establishment is going to, if they respond in a reasonable amount of time, that you're not going to charge this fee? Because again, I think this is part of the job of the police. So would you commit, when you promulgate the regulations, to clarify this so that we aren't going to charge people who are really being cooperative?
Absolutely.
I'm going to call the guy to fix the door. They'll be here 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then if your police officers are there for 12 hours, to me, that's the job of the police department, and you certainly would not charge them for those 12 hours. So I'm asking that, to please consider that issue with the regulations.
We will definitely look at that issue, and I think that
Okay.
there is a window of a reasonable period of time that still wouldn't be a hardship on us for deployment.
Yeah, and I don't want it to be an unnecessary hardship on the retail store either. If something happens, that really isn't their fault.
Understood.
They have all the precautions they're supposed to, but somebody's able to get in there, then I would think that, they should be given reasonable time. So
I think that's reasonable.
Thank you.
Councilman
And
Marks?
just an important point, if we've eliminated the fees from this bill, this should be a redundant section anyway, right? Any unpaid fees shall be considered a lien on the property.
No, you're still sending a bill to the owner of
In terms of, yes, I know, but
Right.
that's what I want to clarify too.
but you can't,
So we're referring to the cost to the police department, but also the fees. We want to just take this all out.
So as I understand it, there's an initial assessment that the police department will make.
Right.
And then the chief or designee will make an assessment as to how long an officer would be there.
In other words, I think it would have been better to be worded any unpaid cost to the department instead of the word fees. But since we're taking it out, it's redundant. I'll make the motion. We
All
pulled
right,
it out.
so
what?
just to recap
To what?
quickly.
Where
Pull
am
that
I?
three.
Where are we?
The motion,
Pulling out three.
the motion for the amendment offered by Mr. the amendment offered by Mr. Marks is at page 11, line 5 of the bill, to strike, quote, "owners of the premises," unquote, and substitute, quote, "applicant or licensee," unquote, and to strike lines 13 and 14 inclusive, which states, "any unpaid fees shall be considered a lien on the property in accordance with section 3-6-401 of the code."
Second.
third.
Please call the roll on the amendment.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
No.
Mr. Secretary, is there yet another amendment?
There is one more amendment, Madam Chair. This amendment, I believe, this is sponsored by council members Bevins and Catch. I believe this is something that both members have been working with the administration on. This amendment is in two parts, but it has to do with financial assistance for implementation of this act. It states that basically, following the regulations adopted under this act, that not more than 30 days after the effective date, the directors of Economic and Workforce Development and Budget and Finance shall jointly develop a program for providing financial assistance to firearms dealers in existence on or before the effective date of this act. The purpose of the financial assistance is to help firearms dealers come into compliance with the requirements of this act. The aid may be given in the form of no-interest loans of not more than $10,000 based on the criteria established by the directors. Unless requested by the Chief of Police, new applications for financial assistance under the program established under this section may not be accepted after the one-year anniversary of the effective date of the regulations adopted under this act. So it would offer some financial assistance.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Catch?
the amendment is, okay, no interest loan
Yes.
or a grant where matching funds
Right.
up to $10,000. So if you're going to do, $8,000 in improvements, the county in essence is going to pay half of them.
So you wish to include grants, matching grants?
No,
We took grants out,
the amendment,
but we talked about the matching funds, up to $10,000.
yeah, right.
But the grants
But,
are out.
but that's not what it says.
Yeah.
Matching grant up to 10,000 and for every, dollar for dollar. So so for every dollar the gun shop puts in, the county's going to contribute $1 up to 10,000.
Okay, so the aid may be given in the form of matching
Right.
grants
Up to $10,000.
or no-interest loans of not more than $10,000.
Correct. That matching,
Right.
yeah, but there's no limit on the no interest loans.
Okay.
Right.
I was
There's
just
no limit.
reading it the way it was presented to us, but we can make that change.
Okay.
And
Can you read it back to us to make
Yes.
sure we have it correctly?
Decides which one to get.
Business and economic development.
The aid, the part that you were talking about in this amendment, the aid may be given in the form of matching grants up to $10,000 or no-interest loans based on the criteria established by the directors.
But it's May.
May,
Okay.
yes.
Madam Chair.
We say may.
May what?
Not for Madam Chair.
The directors
Councilman
could,
Jones.
they may do it. They're not required to, but
And-
It just says that they shall jointly develop a program.
okay.
And so we're not going to help these people, or definitely, in other words, the county may participate or is going to participate?
You mean may or
Well,
shall?
Yeah, may or shall. But the aid will be there. But it'll be maybe in one form or the other. Is that what it says?
Well, it does say that the directors of Economic and Workforce Development and Budget and Finance shall jointly develop a programming for providing financial assistance to firearms dealers in existence on or before the effective date of this act. And it states further that the purpose of the financial assistance is to help firearm dealers come into compliance with the requirements of the act. And then it states that the aid may be given in the form of matching grants up to $10,000 or no interest loans.
Is there a better word than may? The aid shall be given in the form of matching, or, that would be
Councilman
better.
Catch, I would suggest that it stay as may because it may be dependent on what type of plan the applicant submits.
Well, obviously, it's going to be one that is approved by the county.
Correct, hopefully. But
But this may refers to, they may give aid in this form or that form.
Well, I would think that a lot of it would have to do with a business opportunity or financial condition to do it themselves. Believe me when I tell you, I don't feel very comfortable at all giving away taxpayer money to one segment of somebody, but I understand we don't want to put people out of business.
Right.
So the only way you can do that is based on the criteria that economic development come forth. So if a person says, I have the money, I just don't want to spend it, oh, well, that person may get a loan. If the person says, I'm going to go out of business, I want to comply, but I just don't have the money, then perhaps that person would be the one that get the grant. But you can't get away from, you got to have some flexibility.
Well,
you just can't say everybody shall get a grant.
I believe that I'll drop my objection to the word may because I think that the beginning of the, when the DBET, I'm thinking of the state, but whatever they are here, that they would shall come up with a program.
Right.
So I'm okay.
they may come up with.
Question.
No,
Miss-
shall.
Mr. Secretary,
Yes, ma'am.
Troublemaker.
Mr. Secretary, I have a question. So there can both be a matching grant, and for big projects, they might need a loan as well?
Well, it does say or, so you would either be, aid may be given in the form of matching grants up to $10,000 or no interest loans where there is no limit stated. And it would be based on criteria established by the directors of Economic Development and Budget and Finance.
Can we put and/or?
The administration has no objection.
And/or.
Just saying.
So,
Thanks, Wade.
You
Councilman
realize
Morris.
I'm going to have to
Quick
type this
question.
up
So-
later.
I'm sorry, what did you say? I'm sorry.
I'm going to have to type this up later.
Okay.
So the intent here is to help existing businesses come up to standards, which means that this would likely be in the budget that we're going to get in April, correct? And are you, I mean,
Ed,
do you envision this would be in the fiscal year, the next fiscal year budget, correct? Okay. Okay, it's important. It's important, so.
There are discretionary funds in the budget.
I know there are, but this would be a budgeted item.
Madam Chair, just one other comment related to this. I think this loan fund should be for existing businesses and not for new businesses.
And that's why I asked, because the likelihood is these businesses would be expending funds in the summer, so it would be in the next budget. That's why I'm asking this.
and I think it goes away after a year that the law takes effect, right? I mean, so they have a limited time window as well, so it's not just open forever and ever and ever.
That's right. Specifically, it says within a year of the effective date of regulations adopted under this act. So once the administration adopts regulations, then that clock would start. The other component to this amendment is related to false alarm fees. And that states that the false alarm fees that are covered in another section of the county code do not apply to any false alarm that occurs at the licensed location of a firearms dealer on or after the effective date of a license issued for that location under this Article 2123 of the county code. It states further that this section does not apply to a location for which a license has been denied, refused, renewal, revoked, or suspended under 21-23-111 of the county code. So it also, if you're in essentially good standing and you're a licensed dealer and you're complying with this act, that false alarm fees would not be imposed against you, essentially. And this is that correct, Mr. Catch?
You're right. You're right. And the reason is that if there is an alarm, we do want the police to go
Correct.
to investigate it. And so I just don't think the false alarm penalty should apply under this situation, which is
We have no objection to that.
good.
Forgot where we were, but wait a minute. I just want to mention as well, Councilman Catch, that I think from the first conversations that I had with the chief and with the administration, we talked about the financial burden this could be for an owner. So thank you for wanting to have this amendment, because whether it's a gun shop, no matter what business it is in Baltimore County, if we are going to have a charge now from $10,000 to $50,000, that's a huge burden. So I think we have to lessen that burden in order to get the job done. Okay, so I think there may be a motion.
Is there a motion and a second?
I knew where I was. We were asking
Yes,
for a
ma'am.
motion. Second? Is there a second? I guess that's
Second.
me. I'll second. Okay, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendments.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch? Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
No.
Madam Chair, that is the last amendment on the bill,
Whoop, whoop.
so you now have the bill before you as amended.
Okay, is there now a motion to approve 7219 as amended?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please, Mr. Catch.
Thank you. I've been in elected office for 45 years, and I have always maintained an A grade from the National Rifle Association. I'm very proud of that distinction. With this particular legislation, if it had been enacted, which it would have been, as written, I think it would have been very damaging to the gun retailers in Baltimore County, and I think that many of them may have gone out of business, and Baltimore County would have been known as a county where gun shops really aren't welcome. I appreciate so much the administration for working with me and many others up here on these many amendments. To me, they are NRA-friendly, the amendments, and the county executive did state to me that he had no interest in chasing out gun shops in Baltimore County. So I appreciate that. I am going to vote for the bill. This is very difficult for me because I do have such, I support gun rights so much, obviously, and I am going to vote for it. I wish there had been a way that we could have gotten the couple of gun retailers in Baltimore County who have been robbed numerous times, have refused to take the advice of the police department as to extra measures that they should take to stop robberies. And I regret that because I don't think we would be here today if the county had some leverage to get these gun shops to be, these two gun shops to be responsible and put in the safety measures so that we wouldn't have, so the chances of robbery would be much reduced. I just want to say that Baltimore City has no gun shops. Baltimore City, I don't think you would want to hold up as an example that we would want to follow. So, I am voting for the bill. And again, I do appreciate the administration and all the work that they've done in trying to help this bill to be more pro-Second Amendment friendly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. I have probably spent more time working on this bill than any other piece of legislation that was not my own. During Christmas week, my legislative aide, Bradley Lang, and I met with the two retailers in my district affected by this proposal, Zinc Arms and EZHQL Firearms Training Center in Perry Hall. We also met with a range that was outside of my district but owned by one of my constituents. All three retailers have an exemplary record on gun security. Two of them successfully repelled intruders, and yet, regrettably, they are among the 18 retailers impacted by this legislation. It is an unfortunate fact that responsible gun retailers will now have to bear the burden because a few businesses did not enact common sense improvements. We live in a time when some seek black and white, night or day, clear-cut distinctions on issues, and yet there is some truth on both sides of this argument. The proponents of this bill are correct that there is no enforcement mechanism to require a gun retailer to make improvements. As an aide to the county executive told me, all they can do is ask nicely. But the opponents of this bill are correct in other areas, that there are larger factors that are driving our crime wave, such as a lax criminal justice system and, quite frankly, an indefensible law enforcement record in Baltimore City that is impacting Baltimore County. The Republican Party is the minority on this council. I faced a similar decision my very first month on the council in January 2011 when we considered legislation to expand the speed camera program. There were 2 Republicans back there and 5 Democrats. The opponents of speed cameras said some of the same things we hear today. Hold your ground, oppose at all costs, cast a symbolic no vote. And I question what that got constitutional conservatives, absolutely nothing. The consequences are greater tonight if you're a gun retailer. I'm not afraid of the current administration, but fear what could happen in the future if we did not amend this bill. There are some who would never hesitate 1 second to tax and regulate the gun industry to extinction. Baltimore City, as was pointed out, has no gun retailers within its borders. I respect the perspective of every one of my colleagues on this council, including those who, on principle, may cast a no vote. I deeply, deeply respect that perspective. But for me and the administration, and I think my colleagues can back this up, it's difficult to garner compromises when every single vote from the minority party is a no. I've been very open with the decision I'm going to make tonight, and when I asked the retailers in my district, they agreed with me. I shared this opinion last night with the members of the Baltimore County Game and Fish Protective Association, the largest and oldest shooting club in my district, and I did not hear anyone oppose what I said last night. Gun retailers are good people. They want to do what's best to protect their property and the lives of others. The concepts of life, liberty, and property are as central to this republic today as they were during the days of the founders. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? Councilman Quirk?
Yeah, just very briefly, just wanted to thank our colleagues for all of us trying to work through this in a bipartisan fashion, which I think is important, especially on an issue like this. And I do want to recognize the administration, too, because the administration took time even today to go out and actually talk to 2 different gun dealerships, or 2 different gun shops in my district, and really tried to listen to what their big concerns were. And I got to say, I think most of the big concerns we heard loud and clear have been addressed with amendments that have been worked on by both the county council and the county executive's office. So I think that's an important point to make. And actually, the 2 places in my district, Tyler Guns, he's already fixed his place up a lot because he's had a lot of issues. So he's completely compliant with or without this bill, which is a lot of the gun dealerships. They want to have safe stores, and they want to try to protect their merchandise. And then I stopped by Clyde's as well afterward, and they seem to be pretty compliant as well. And so a lot of this bill is not going to apply to the people that are doing their best to protect their stores and their business and their communities. it's mostly in case we have people that are not complying, the so-called bad apples. And so this now gives the administration a tool that we can use to try to encourage the bad apples to come into compliance. And I'll tell you, when I talk to the gun dealer owners today, they want that. They want to make sure there's no bad apples. They want everybody to be really doing what they can so nobody else gets a bad name from them. So I thought it was a good trip, so I appreciate that.
Councilman Jones?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to just thank the administration as well as all my colleagues. I think and I really believe that you come up with a better product when everybody participates and you make the amendments to try to meet somewhere in the middle. But I don't want to get too far away from what we're doing here today, which is the big story. The big picture is we're going to take steps working with the gun shop owners to try to secure their guns to the best of our ability. Because no doubt about it, these guns that are stolen end up killing people in our community. They end up hurting people in our community. So that's the big story here today. So if we can prevent 1, 2, 50, 100 guns from entering the hands or ending up in the hands of criminals, then that is a good thing. So I'll be very, very happy to vote for this bill just because I know that we're going to possibly save some lives here today. So thank you.
I agree, Mr. Jones. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, I just want to echo what Councilman Jones just said, because I think we heard during work session that there were, in one of the robberies, there were, burglaries, I'm sorry, there were approximately 60 weapons that were unaccounted for, that are somewhere in the region, perhaps not in the region. We didn't know if they were automatic weapons, could possibly be automatic weapons, and so that frightens me to think about 60 potential automatic weapons that are out there somewhere in our community that aren't getting registered. As Councilman Jones said, they're being used for illegal activities, and they kill people, and they hurt people, and they maim people. So if we have 60, that's 60 too many that are somewhere in the area, somewhere in the region, that are unaccounted for. And so I'm pleased to join my colleagues in supporting this bill.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 7219 as amended.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
No.
Bill 7219 as amended is passed. Thank you, Chief, and
Thank you all.
Meg Ferguson.
Next, Madam Chair, is Bill 73-19, sponsored by Councilman Marks, zoning regulations, public utility service centers, and storage yards.
Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. This would add a proposed BGE substation in the Perry Hall area to the Honeygo area. The Honeygo area is a part of northeastern Perry Hall where there's more stringent design guidelines. This would make sure that that facility has those type of standards. This is legislation that I've been developing for quite some time with BGE, as well as the community association that is most impacted by this facility.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Are there any questions or comments? Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 7319.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye. Aye.
Bill 73-19 is passed. The council will now consider all physical matters. Extensive testimony was taken at the council's work session on January 14, 2020. The witnesses who testified at the work session are available to restate their testimony if needed. If a council member has any questions regarding a particular physical matter, that item will be discussed as a separate matter. I will now call upon the Secretary to read the cover letter for fiscal 1 through 6 and 8 through 13.
Madam Chair, fiscal matter 1 is a budget appropriation transfer, Office of Budget and Finance, reserve for contingencies, local shares. Fiscal matter 2 is a contract with Margrave Strategies LLC for consulting services. Fiscal matter 3 is a contract with G&W Trucking Corporation for snow removal and de-icing. Fiscal matter 4 is a contract with Ted's Towing Service Incorporated for on-call towing services. Fiscal matter 5 is a contract with AECom Technical Services Incorporated for sanitary sewer and pipeline design services. Fiscal matter 6 is a contract with Whitman, Requart and Associate LLP, also for sanitary sewer pipeline design. Fiscal matter 8 is a contract with Michael Baker International, on-call sanitary sewer pipeline design. Fiscal matter 9 is a contract with Frederick Ward Associates Incorporated, again, sanitary sewer pipeline design. Fiscal matter 10 is a contract with Nicholas L. Almoni, doing business as East Coast Property Services for snow removal de-icing. Fiscal matter 11 is a contract with Cummins Wagner Company Incorporated, doing business as Eastco Pump and Valve for on-call services for machine parts. Fiscal matter 12 is an amendment to a contract with Southeastern Security Consultants Incorporated for background check investigations. And fiscal matter 13 is a contract with Workday Incorporated, Human Capital Financial Services from the Office of Human Resources, Budget and Finance, and OIT.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'm going to vote in support of all of these bills with the exception of item 7. I'm going to recuse myself. My beautiful wife, I hope she's watching right now, Denise Watkins, works for RK&K, and so I'm going to recuse myself from item 7.
Okay.
So we're in a division for that one?
Yes, sir. With that in mind, we separated fiscal matter 7 out as a separate matter.
Thank you.
So is there a motion to approve fiscal matters 1 through 6 and 8 through 13?
I'll move it.
Second?
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on fiscal matters 1 through 6, 8 through 13.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Matters 1 through 6 and 8 through 13 are approved. Mr. Secretary, read fiscal matter 7.
Fiscal matter 7 is a contract with Rummel, Klepper, and Kahl for sanitary sewer pipeline design services.
Any questions or comments? Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Second? I'll second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on fiscal matter 7.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Present.
Abstain?
Abstain.
Abstain. Fiscal matter 7 is passed. We will now consider miscellaneous business. Mr. Secretary, first item.
Madam Chair, the first item under miscellaneous business involves contracts over $25,000 that were awarded by a process other than formal competitive bid. It is required when this occurs that a copy of the contract be given to the County Council and the nature and parties to that contract be announced by the Secretary at the next legislative session following award of that contract. There are 2 such contracts this evening. One is with Whitmer Public Safety Group, doing business as Mason-Dixon Fire Equipment in the amount of $65,000. And the second contract is with Boehringer Ingelheim Animal Health USA Incorporated in the amount of $100,000.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next is Resolution 9-20, approval of loan agreement Lion Homes 3 Preservation LLC.
Thank you. And I believe we have Mr. Gutwall here to testify. Who's been patiently waiting. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. I didn't know if you wanted to do 9, 10, and 11 together, or because they're all related.
Yes.
They are together. They'll just be voted on separately, but yes.
Okay.
Okay, so these are, Resolution 9 and 10 and 11 are for a payment in lieu of taxes, as well as a $500,000 loan, a county home federal funding loan. Henry Lax Village at Lyon Apartments consists of a total of 126 units of mixed income rental units. It provides for the rehabilitation of mixed financing structures. The two simultaneously constructed projects, Village 2 is consisting of 9 units, Henry Lax Village 3 would be 36 units, and the renovation of this property and community spaces includes renovation of interiors and exteriors, installation of new kitchens and bathrooms, central HVA systems, installation of energy efficient appliances, upgrade to electrical services, and so on. The financing of these projects went in front of the Finance Committee on November 4th, 2019. As I will refresh your memories, in 2017, the first phase of Lyon Homes of about 118 units received a pilot program for all of those 118 units. The Village 2 project is requesting a 10-year payment in lieu of taxes. The requested payment is $300 per unit for the first 5 years with a 3% annual escalation, and then 6 through 10 would be an increase of $400 with a 3% annual escalation. The Village 3 project will, as I mentioned, will have a $500,000 loan from the county's home federal funding, as well as a pilot program. The pilot will be $300, as in the Village 2, will have a requested payment of $300 per unit for the first 5 years, and $400 for years 6 through 10.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for 920? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 920?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 920.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Okay, Resolution 920 is passed. The next item was Resolution 1020.
Yes, ma'am. Resolution 1020 is related to Resolution 920. It is the same Lyon Homes 3, the Village 3 project. Rather than a loan agreement, which was 9, you're asked to approve Resolution 10-20, which is approval of the pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes, as indicated by Mr. Gutwald.
Okay, any questions from the members? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 1020?
So move.
Second? Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 1020.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Resolution 1020 is passed. And the next item is Resolution 1120.
Yes, ma'am. Resolution 1120 is entitled Approval of Payment in Lieu of Taxes Pilot Agreement, Lyon Homes 2. And again, as alluded to by Mr. Gutwald, that refers to the Village 2 restoration project.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 11-20.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Gutwald. Next, Resolution 1220.
Yes, ma'am. Resolution 1220 is sponsored by Councilman Catch. This resolution is entitled Planning Board Agricultural Buildings, Value-Added Agricultural Purposes.
Comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. A few years ago, Baltimore County enacted legislation that would allow farmers to operate some businesses and in order to supplement their income. It was very important that there be a new source of income for them. What this resolution deals with is we're asking the planning board to come up with regulations or policies which will deal with the older structures in these facilities, wineries, breweries, etc., and dealing with the improvement of those facilities. Right now, they have to follow the county building code, and in some cases, that's just not reasonable for these establishments to follow the county building code because it would compromise the building. So this simply asks the planning board to take a look at this issue and make recommendations.
Thank you.
And I move the bill.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 12-20.
Hatch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Resolution 12-20 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is Resolution 13-20. This resolution is sponsored by Councilman Patoka, Baltimore County Agricultural Advisory Board, Industrial Hemp Developments.
And I believe there's an amendment.
There is, Madam Chair. The resolution as introduced dealt with requesting that the county's Agricultural Advisory Board craft recommendations and review the issue regarding industrial hemp. What the amendment would do was actually ask the Planning Board in consultation with the Agricultural Board to review this issue and make necessary recommendations to the County Council.
Any questions on the amendment? Is there a motion to approve the amendment?
Motion.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to Resolution 13-20.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
The amendment is passed. Are there any questions or comments on the bill itself? On the resolution itself, I'm sorry. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll. Resolution 13-20 as amended.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Resolution 13-20 as amended is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is Resolution 15-20, sponsored by Councilwoman Bevins. This is a resolution authorizing the property tax refund to Donnell Fleming, who, as a disabled veteran, is entitled to a refund under state law.
I'm honored to move it.
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 15-20.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Resolution 15-20 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 16-20 is sponsored by Councilman Jones. This is a resolution authorizing the property tax refund to Robert Jones, who, as a disabled veteran, is entitled to a refund under state law.
It's my honor to move the resolution, and he's no relations that I'm aware of.
I'll second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Jones is a rare name.
I know.
Gosh.
Please
Mr.
call the roll on Resolution 16-20.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Resolution 16-20 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item.
Resolution 17-20 is sponsored by Councilman Crandall. This is a resolution authorizing the property tax refund to Crispin Sayo, who, as a disabled veteran, is entitled to a refund under state law.
I'll move it.
A second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 17-20.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Resolution 17-20 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 18-20 is sponsored by Councilman Marks. This is a resolution authorizing the property tax refund to David Williams Sr., who, as a disabled veteran, is entitled to a refund under state law.
It's my honor to move this resolution.
A second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 18-20.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Resolution 18-20 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 19-20 is sponsored by Councilman Jones. This is a resolution authorizing the property tax refund to Marjorie Swain, who, as a surviving spouse of a disabled veteran, is entitled to a refund under state law.
It's my honor to move the resolution.
I'll second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 19-20.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Resolution 19-20 is passed. Next item, please.
Next is Resolution 20-20, sponsored by Councilman Crandall. This is a resolution authorizing the property tax refund to Raymond Snyder Jr., who, as a disabled veteran, is entitled to a refund under state law.
It's my honor to move the resolution.
Second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on 20-20.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Next item, please.
Next is Resolution 21-20. This is sponsored by Council Members Catch, Marks, and Patoka. Rules of Procedure, Baltimore County Council. This is for introduction only this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, is there any further business to come before the council?
Madam
I'm
Chair.
sorry, Councilman Quirk.
Yeah, just a point of personal privilege, if I could. I just wanted to recognize a couple people. One, my son Teddy's in the audience, so
Hi,
thank you
Teddy.
for
Hey, Teddy.
being here. And then Otis Collins and Desiree Collins are here. And Otis runs the Wilkins Police and Community Relations Organization.
Thank
And his wife, both him and his wife are great community activists. And I know they have several people with them to testify on the public session right after this, but I
Okay.
didn't acknowledge them. And then lastly, and on a tougher note, unfortunately, Jackie Lynn Pell recently passed away, and she was really a dedicated activist in the community. And she's also sat on the Women's Commission for Baltimore County. So I did want to send our deepest condolences to her family.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Quirk. And welcome, everyone. And thank you for 2 hours. Mr. Secretary, is there any further business to come before the council?
There is no further business, Madam Chair. You do have a public hearing later, a little bit later.
Right. Is there a motion to adjourn this
Motion.
meeting? All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. Do we have any, oh, we do have,
Let's do it, be quick.
what did I do with it? Oh, hold on, I got it.
You don't have any speakers for the
Correct.
3-minute period allotted to the public.
Sorry, I was just skipping right over that.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Mr. Secretary. The public hearing of the Baltimore County Council will now come to order. We are holding a public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Baltimore County Charter and the Baltimore County Code on the following issue. Final historic landmarks list additions. Former Catonsville Elementary School, and setting 615 Frederick Road, Catonsville, and the Halethorpe Colored School, excluding 1968 addition and setting Lot 64 plat of East Halethorpe. Sorry, 1900 Northeast Avenue, Halethorpe. I will now read the rules of procedure for public hearings. Anyone wishing to speak should have registered with the secretary prior to the hearing at the table outside the chambers. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that there is a clock in front of you that will display the remaining time that you speak. The council members, if they desire, may then ask brief questions. Briefly. When a speaker is called, the name of the next speaker will also be called. This person is asked to come forward and be prepared with their testimony. Peter Gutwald and Taylor Bensley from the Department of Planning will speak briefly on the proposed landmarks additions. And then Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, they called me Miss Speaker, you might as well, Mr. Speaker.
You guys
Okay,
married?
thank you. Yeah, we got married.
Speakers?
We got married, me and Tom, yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the County Council. I am simply going to turn this over to Taylor, who is our staff to the Landmarks Preservation Commission.
Okay.
Good evening. The two structures tonight are the former Catonsville Elementary School, placed on the preliminary landmarks list on February 9th, 2017, and the Halethorpe Colored School, placed on the preliminary landmarks list September 12th, 2019, both by the Baltimore County Landmarks Preservation Commission in accordance with county law. The former Catonsville Elementary School is the school and setting at 615 Frederick Road in Catonsville. It's preliminary landmark number 411. Located in the first election district in the community of Catonsville, the former Catonsville Elementary School was originally constructed circa 1909 as Catonsville High School. Built to serve students from primary grades through high school, it was constructed as part of a larger movement to build safer, more attractive, and technically superior buildings with the knowledge that a school building had a direct effect on the quality of learning and represented the educational values of a community. The constant struggle for financial support and an early lack of planning for school impact from suburbanization often forced the county school board to make difficult or temporary decisions when planning for new school buildings and sites. Following the city annexation in 1919, the money acquired through the loss of school facilities helped fund the construction of a new high school in Catonsville on Bloomsbury Avenue that would relieve the crowded facilities at the building on Frederick Road. After the new Catonsville High School opened in 1925, the primary grades through 6th remained in the building on Frederick Road. Constant growth in the community and changing requirements for educational facilities would continue to create a need to expand the school. Prior to World War II, the county's school board initiated an ambitious 20-year building plan that included additions to Catonsville Elementary School. After the war, major changes came to the school planning and architecture, with a focus on uniformity of buildings that could be placed on large suburban lots. These schools tended to lack the architectural elements that defined the buildings constructed in the early 20th century. Due to the ongoing financial and physical challenges required to maintain the schools to modern standards, Catonsville Elementary School relocated to the renovated former 1925 Catonsville High School in 2016. Catonsville Elementary School is significant for its association with the history of the community of Catonsville and the Baltimore County Public School System. The building represents an era of school construction and focused on a monumental architectural style meant to promote the importance of education. The building retains excellent historic integrity in setting, association, and materials, and serves as a notable example of Gothic Revival architecture featured in many architect-designed schools designed during the early 20th century. The building also serves as an example of the institutional design work of William Ehlers, a Catonsville architect, and the notable firm of Smith & May. The school's period of significance is associated with its date of construction in 1909 through World War II, which represents the county's pre-World War II school building program that saw significant changes after 1945. The entire property, 2.78 acres total, tax map number 101, parcel 377, tax ID number 010102572012, was delineated as its historic environmental setting. The second property is the Halethorpe Colored School, excluding the 1968 addition and the setting, Lot 64, plat of East Halethorpe, located at 1900 East Northeast Avenue in Halethorpe. Its preliminary landmarks list number 414. Located in the 13th election district within the African American community of East Halethorpe, the former Halethorpe Colored School was originally constructed circa 1924 with money raised by local residents combined with funds from the Julius Rosenwald Fund and Baltimore County School Board. The Julius Rosenwald Fund was established in 1912 to support the construction of well-built schools with modern amenities in states that failed to adequately support education for African American children. While other agencies and charitable organizations had been working to improve schools for African American children, the Rosenwald Fund became the most well-known. Providing seed money for school construction, the local communities were expected to match the financial contributions from the fund or provide in-kind contributions in the form of materials or labor. The program also offered architectural plans and planning assistance. Although the technical assistance provided by the program's staff was originally voluntary, it became mandatory when local construction efforts failed to produce sturdy buildings or did not maximize the resources available. Consequently, the standardization of plans and site planning made the finished schools distinctive and recognizable due to their shared architectural features. The citizens of East Halethorpe raised $1,897 towards the building of a new brick school, which was matched by $700 from the Rosenwald Fund. Baltimore County's Board of School Commissioners added $13,403 of public funds and agreed to facilitate the construction and maintain the school, which was a requirement of the fund. Local residents also provided labor towards the building's construction, making it truly a community school. The resulting building featured an overhanging hipped roof, covered entrance, and window placement that characterized a Rosenwald school. By the time the program ended in 1932, the Rosenwald Fund had assisted with the construction of more than 5,357 schools and industrial buildings in 15 southern states. In Maryland, 167 educational buildings were constructed in 20 counties. While 156 of the buildings were schools, the fund also supported industrial buildings and teacher housing. In Baltimore County, out of the 6 schools constructed with the Rosenwald Fund assistance, 4 survive with varying retention of original elements. Following the integration of Baltimore County schools, the building was sold to private owners who operated it as a nursing home for a brief time. The building was acquired by the Halethorpe Civic Association, who converted it to a recreation center. It was conveyed back to the Baltimore County Recreation and Parks in 1968 in conjunction with new organized efforts to create dedicated recreational space for Baltimore County residents. The Halethorpe Colored School is significant for its association with the nationally significant Rosenwald Fund program, the resulting schools being of immense importance to the communities in which they were built. It is also significant as a representative example of the efforts made by African Americans to achieve access to basic education and modern facilities in the era of segregation, and for its association with Julius Rosenwald, his philanthropic mission and approach, and his contributions to African American education in the first half of the 20th century. The school is an excellent example of a two-teacher planned school that was developed and constructed during the principal period of the Rosenwald Schools program that has retained physical integrity through the retention of building materials and design features associated with Rosenwald Schools. It retains excellent integrity in construction, design, and setting within the African American community of East Halethorpe, and exhibits community and civic support for the site and its continued use. The building is a significant example of the collaborative approach to school construction that utilized community skills and local building materials to develop a brick school at a time when frame Rosenwald schools were typical. The period of significance begins in 1924 at the time of construction and ends in 1947 when the Baltimore County Board of Education conveyed it to private ownership. The entire lot, 0.15 acres total, Lot 64, plat of East Halethorpe, tax map number 0109, parcel number 0380, tax account number 13021905542, was delineated as its historic environmental setting.
Thank you.
Could you repeat that?
Very funny.
Very thorough.
Councilman Quirk?
Appreciate your work and appreciate Rob Brennan and his group, and I appreciate everybody so patiently waiting, and I apologize for such a long delay, but thank you all for coming out.
Thank you.
Of course.
Madam Chair. So Taylor, that was an excellent presentation, and I thought it was a good combination of historical detail and architectural qualities of the schools. Do you know how many Rosenwald schools we have in Baltimore County?
6, I do believe. 4 that survive. There's the Benji School, which is owned by Baltimore County. It's a community center. It's in fair condition. Turner Elementary, it was integrated into an apartment complex, and then the final Rosenwald School was turned into a private residence. So the 4 that remain.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Councilman Catch.
Noticed that
Certainly.
thank you. I just noticed that the funding of schools in the teens and 20s was far different than today. I mean, with the community has to come up with funds, et cetera. Were community funds used for the Catonsville High School as well?
Not to my knowledge. That was primarily for the Rosenwald program, as it was a requirement of that program.
Of that program. So the county school system did not have a program to build schools for minorities?
Correct.
Councilman Catch, I used to oversee the capital budget for Baltimore City and Baltimore County, and I can't remember exactly for Baltimore County, but I know that there were two separate budgets for white schools and what were then called colored schools. Now, this is not during the time when I did the budget, but I saw the 1943 capital budget for Baltimore City, which it was sad in a way that it designated funding, and Ed, I know that you could appreciate with your experience that it had two separate categories. There were two capital project numbers and a set of numbers for what was designated then as colored schools. And I'm glad we're beyond those days. But again, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak.
Anyone else? Okay, and we have 2 folks here to testify this evening. Thank you very much. First, we have Otis Collins. Otis, come on up. Yes, how are you?
Esteemed council, thank you guys for having us here tonight.
You're welcome. Have a seat up here at the table.
Do I have 3 minutes, or are you going to give me?
Yep, 3
seconds?
minutes, and somebody's got a timer on you.
Oh, man. I should have opened my mouth. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Otis Collins, president of the Hillthorpe Civic League, as well as president of the Wilkins Police Community Relations Organization. To my left here is the chairman of the committee that actually headed up this project for us.
Well,
for the
thank you
Hillthorpe
for all you
Civic League.
do.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for what you guys do. But prior to Brown versus Board of Education, 1955 landmark decision, as you know, the schools were segregated. And just a couple of pointers I would like to point out here in the presentation that Teller presented to you. The land for the school was provided by a local a Black Businessmen Association, or actually primarily J.A. Wims and Son and Luther Wims, and actually some of the descendants of that family is here tonight, as well as these are a picture of the 2 teachers that she mentioned of this Negro or the colored school are listed here. And if you guys would like to see it, you could pass it around. And the descendants of some of these very people here are here tonight. I'd like to ask them to stand. If you guys could just stand, those of you that's here. And these are some of the descendants of the people that you're looking at on that picture there that went to that colored school. So we'd like to thank you guys for coming out tonight, because that was a very dark time in the history of America, when America refused to educate their children equally. So tonight, folks, we're just simply here to ask if you will be gracious enough to pass a vote to preserve this institution, this great American institution that has a treasure trove of information and treasures for tourism, as well as an opportunity for the community to grow and develop from that. Currently, the county is using this facility weekly, every weekend, for a party. They rent it out for a party, and they collect money for it. And it's a disgrace to the credit of the patriotism of this country, to the community, to the state of Maryland, that we would take a treasure such as this old school that was built by the Rosenwald Fund to just do something as silly as have a party when maybe they could go to a more public facility and carry out something. Can you imagine maybe something as treasured as some event that happened a long time ago where folks was just having a good time and partying in it, a synagogue or something of that nature, a treasured camp where people were, bad things happen. So we're just simply trying to preserve this, and we're asking for your support to make sure that this happens. I'm just going to take 1 second here, if you don't mind. Actually, Vince here would like to say something on behalf of a young lady he worked with named Terry Risen.
Okay. Go ahead. You could finish, sir.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Just move the mic over. There you
Okay.
go. Here you come.
Yeah, Ms. Risen was very instrumental in doing research in the background on this particular building. We had no idea that it was part of the Rosenwald heritage. And one of the significant things about the Rosenwald schools is it was a collaboration between Julius Rosenwald and Booker T. Washington. And the work that was done, the architecture was done by the Tuskegee School. And it's significant in that sense because there's a particular architectural look to the building. Ms. Risen also gave some, and it's too much to go into now, but she also gave some additional information on the school and its significance, and we're indebted to her work on that.
As well as to Taylor.
Yeah,
And Taylor Bensky.
So we just really ask your support. And Mr. Crown, I know this evening you have voted no on a lot of issues, but I really want a good yes from you, sir.
I voted no on one issue, just had 10 different amendments.
I'm on the board, yeah, thank you. Folks, we'd like to just thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your contributions to the community.
Thank you. Thank you for coming
Thank
in.
you very much.
Yeah,
And
I
next, Oh, I'm sorry.
I remember Lucy McKeon. I don't know if you know Lucy. Very active historical
Gun Road.
activist in southwestern Baltimore County. She did a walking tour well before I was elected, a lot of these structures, and I always wondered why this was not on there. So congratulations. I know a lot of work went into this.
For about 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's taken that long just to get here.
Yeah, congratulations. Very worthwhile. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience as well.
And next, we have
Appreciate it.
Bridget Genovese. And you're our last speaker. Send us out with a bang.
No pun intended.
Oh, no, that was bad words, yeah, sorry.
Madam Chair and the council, I'm here very informally. I just want to introduce myself. I'm a descendant of Halethorpe. I'm actually born and raised in Halethorpe. My grandmother attended the color school, as well as my great uncle and my great aunt. I just want to go on record to let you know that we really cherish that location. There are many people that still reside in the community who are descendants, and we do gather there for many events, neighborhood meetings, neighborhood holiday parties. But it's also important to note that I'm a 52-year-old woman, and as a child, we attended that location for summer camp, and we learned a lot of very strong values. We learned about family, and actually about religion as well, even though we try to keep church and state very separate, morals, lots of arts and crafts. So I just want you to know, even today, that is a very cherished location for us. I want to also note that I'm also a descendant of Luther Williams, and he was also a member of the Black Businessmen Association. And so they also donated money, and they also did work to help to work on the building, to build the building, and to preserve the building. So I just think it's important for you all to understand that many of us still reside in the community, and we do cherish the building, and it's very significant to us. And we like to keep our dream alive. And that's all
Thank
I
you.
have to really say.
Thank you.
Under 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing and coming in.
welcome.
Councilman Quirk?
Yeah, and just wrapping this up, really appreciate you coming in. I appreciate the community coming in. The leadership that we have in this community is wonderful. I think it's a nice way to close this meeting.
It is.
It's really just a great thing. And I just want to state for the record, to thank the County Exec's Office and Department of Planning. Did a great job. Landmarks, Rob Brennan. This is very widely supported. Both of these are very widely supported by the community, as well as the County Exec Office. And I'm not aware of any opposition to either one of them from anyone in my district, which is
Very
really,
good.
really nice.
That's
Now, I
good.
said that, now look out. But, knock on wood, it looks pretty good. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, and thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just want to thank everyone from coming in and also acknowledge the great work of the Planning Department.
Yeah.
Once again, they march in here and do great work each time they come in.
In case you don't know, Izzy was a planner.
Yeah.
And he loves the planning
He
department.
reminds
loves,
us of
loves.
that.
We're
Loves.
reminded of that a lot.
Madam Chair, I have the gentleman's picture here if we want to
Oh, okay.
return that back to him. And I also want to acknowledge Terry Rising. I didn't know that we did landmarks preservation without Terry. I thought that was kind of like written in the code or something. But Terry is an expert in the field, and it sounds like we're in pretty good hands with, is this going to be your new thing, Taylor, or? Okay.
Well, actually,
Okay.
and piggyback on that, I noticed, I think Karen Brown is back, right? Is Karen Brown? Am I right? Or is that just that's just a
No.
typo? Okay.
They're saying
I'm
no.
wrong. Okay. Thank you. It's just a typo. Okay, it's just a typo. Okay. Remember Karen?
Okay, I think this concludes tonight's council meeting. I want to thank everybody who waited, and thank everybody for coming out, and have a safe trip home. Not just that, we didn't want all those amendments. It was like costs money, it's a big no. Give me a pen. It is money. What do you want money for now? You need training. All the money you make, you still need training. Oh, you're staying in Maryland. You can go. Have fun. Okay. Oh, how many of them? I thought it's only $525. Does that include everybody? That's good. Sounds like a bargain. Where's all the shit I just had in my hand? Oh, right here.